Okay, this is Cadd 212, Architectural Cadd, Class 18, on Monday, October 26th. Today in class, we're going to review section views, how to create those. We're going to talk a little bit about interiors, how to create an interiors plan. We're also going to create dormers and a standing seam metal roof for our building. So we'll go ahead and jump into Revit and get started with that today with section views. Okay, all right, so section views are actually pretty easy to do. Section views are used to obviously show a particular area of the building that we want to highlight. So if we go to level 1, and I'm going to turn off my floor patterns. We haven't actually done these in class yet, but we will be doing room tags shortly. Okay, so in order to do section views, there's a couple of ways that we can access that. If you look on your quick access toolbar, this little tool right here, section, this is how we create a section view. So you just click on that, and then with our cursor, we're just going to cut across a particular area of the building. When we do that, you'll see that there is a view field on here. A couple things we can do to modify this. Notice we do have our drawing symbol over here, our section symbol over here. If we click on this, we can rotate through to different sides of the section view if we want it. Also, you'll note we do have toggles on here. For instance, you drew the section view in the wrong direction. You can just flip your toggles to actually make that cut the correct direction that you want. And this is the depth field. If we just wanted it to come to, say, right here, it would cut off at this point. It doesn't make a lot of sense to do that in this particular view because we do want to have this access to this back wall. We can also shorten the view by bringing it in this way as well. And then we can adjust our section view accordingly. Once we put this on a sheet, your correct sheet and drawing numbers will be inserted in this area right here for your for your section tag. And if you just kind of double click on the front of this, it will bring you to the view itself. And if we click on the view, we can actually shrink the view at this time as well. If you just wanted a portion of that available, you can shrink that this way. Once you create a section view, you'll notice that it is automatically going to insert itself into the project browser, so you can refer to it back that way. Once that section view is created, it's going to show up in your different views. Sometimes this gets a little distracting. In order to just kind of temporarily hide them, you can do visibility graphics. You can type VV. You can go to the annotation category. And if you scroll down to sections, we can turn that off so at least your views will be clean for you to kind of work with. But section views will be needed when we're creating our sheets. So we'll just turn that back on for now. Let's do another couple of those so you can see how those work. I'll just do this one right here. And I want it to face the stairs. Let's just pull this back so you can kind of get an idea how that works. So here's my section view 2. So you can see when I pulled that viewport back, it's got a really strange cutoff in this area. So if I wanted to fix that, I'll go back to level 1, click on that, make it active. And I'm going to go ahead and pull that back though, so it goes through the entire field. So you see when I adjusted that now, it gives me the entire view at that point. I'll go ahead and shrink that down to where I want that to be. Let's go ahead and just turn on consistent colors so we can get an idea. Very yellow. Cut through this, our curtain wall. We've got our staircase view, things like that. So you will be required to do a couple of section views. Once we get to that part where it's laid out in what you need for that final portfolio, you'll have that. But as you can see, this is actually kind of nice to use just to get an idea of how the interiors of your building are looking. It's just another tool to use in order to get better views on the inside of it. When we're actually laying this out in a set of plans, these are ways that we can draw attention to a particular area of the building that we want to highlight. But for now, the only thing that we need to know is just kind of how to use that. So we will be using section views a little bit later. So section views are pretty easy. I'm going to go ahead and just delete those. And we're going to move on to interiors. So for our interior plans, we are going to want to lay out a little bit of furniture on here as you get a little bit further down the road in your design work. I don't want you to go hog wild. I just want to know that you're able to kind of lay out some of the furniture. And actually, when we get to our renderings part and our walkthroughs, it is kind of interesting to have some furniture in here, but we don't want the furniture to show up in our actual floor plan. We want to have a separate interiors plan from our floor plan itself. So in order to do that, we need to create another level 1 or level 2 or level 3 or whatever level you're working on where you're going to insert that furniture. You can just put furniture plan on level 1. If you want to go a little bit further, you can add that to the additional levels, but for now, you only be required to do a furniture plan on level 1. So what we're going to need to do is go to our project browser, and on our level 1 floor plan, we're going to right-click. We're going to do duplicate view and just duplicate. And this is going to give us a full duplication of that level 1. You see it says level 1 copy. At this point, I want to rename that. I'm going to call this level 1 interiors. I'm going to go back to my regular level 1 at this time and go into visibility graphics. At this time, I'm going to turn off my furniture. I don't want furniture to show up in this level at all. There's a couple other things that we may be putting in interiors, but for now we know that furniture is going to be part of it. I think specialty equipment is also, but as things start popping up in here, well, we can turn them off at that time. So main thing to know is in regular level 1, your original level 1, you want to definitely turn off your furniture and visibility graphics. So hit OK there. Now we can go back into level 1 interiors. And at this point, you can just go ahead and lay out a little bit of furniture or interiors planning. Especially when we do residential, people like to play with this a little bit, but you don't have to go hog wild on it, but just put in a few things so we get an idea of what the building looks like and what your design ideas are especially as we do a walkthrough. So we're going to go to Architecture tab, Build Panel Component Tool. We're going to go to Load Family. And here you can kind of play with what you're looking for. We have furniture systems. Best thing to do is just kind of get in here and kind of play with it and see what you see what you'd like to put in the different buildings themselves. I'm not really looking for the design ideas, just the fact that you're able to insert different pieces. Load family again. So under specialty equipment is classroom. So you can just drop a couple of pieces like that. Jump to 3D. Here you can see we've dropped in those desks and a couple of tables. So if we go back to regular level 1, you'll see they're not inserted at this view, which is what we want. We want our regular floor plan here for our architectural plans. And then for our interior section, we do have our different interiors available as well. So what I would suggest is definitely go ahead and finish doing your architectural work before you jump into interiors. But if you wanted to kind of play with that a little bit, make sure that you're doing another floor plan. If you wanted to do the same thing with level 2, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to go to level 2, you're going to right click, duplicate view, duplicate, and you're going to rename this one as well. Level 2 interiors. In regular level 2, we're going to go to visibility graphics, and we're going to turn off our furniture and furniture systems. So now whatever furniture we put in regular level, in level 2 interiors, will not show up in our regular level 2. So those are pretty straightforward. Any questions about that? The instructions for the interiors are pretty much laid out here. You're going to duplicate level 1, rename it to level 1 interiors, and then turn off. So it's pretty straightforward there. Before we get into the more complex stuff of dormers and standing seam metal roofs, any questions about those two things that we just reviewed? Okay, yeah, they're pretty straightforward. So the next couple of things that we're going to talk about, dormers and standing seam metal roofs, please pay attention to the order in which these procedures are done. If you miss one step, it's going to mess it up. And I found with previous students, it just takes a little bit of practice with the dormers and standing seam metal roofs in order to get those down. But once again, it's just a matter of getting the process correct. All right, so let's jump into dormers, how we're going to create those. So just for your information, for those of you who are curious about dormers, this is what we're going to be creating on our building right now. These are our dormers that are going to come out of our roof. So it's a way to add some interest to the building itself. So we're going to do that. So in order to do that, there's a couple things that we need to think about. We're going to need to add some new elevations. When we're creating that, we're going to do an elevation for the bottom of the dormer and the top of the dormer. So how we're going to add those is we're going to go to our datum panel and our level tool like we've added before. And the heights are going to probably need adjusted as after I lay these in, because we're just kind of doing these without any, just kind of doing them on the fly. So I've added those 2 levels. Now I want to change the names of these. This says level 5. So I'm going to change this to dormer bottom. Would you like to rename corresponding views? Yes, we would. And this one I'm going to change to dormer top. So the very bottom of that dormer, this area right here, I'm going to draw on the dormer bottom. So I'm going to go back to my properties, my project browser. I'm going to click on dormer bottom. This is going to be the view that we have at that time. So I'm going to use the same walls that I used before for my exteriors. And at this point, I'm just going to draw that in place. Let's go to 3D. So we have something that looks like this. I drew that backwards. You can see my interiors are on the outside. So I'm going to go back to dormer bottom. And I'm going to flip these around. So now the walls are facing the correct direction. If we take a look at that front view, we'll see when I drew that wall, the base constraint is dormer bottom, and it has the top constraint up to dormer top. We can correct those later, and we can correct the heights as we continue doing this. One thing when I take a look at this real quickly, I can see that, let's take a side view. Got something that kind of sits out like this, so that doesn't really look really well. We want to make sure that this sits within the building itself. So there's a couple of things I need to adjust on here. What I'm going to do is adjust the bottom of this dormer. I'll make that 31 feet. And then I'm going to come back to my dormer bottom view. I'm just going to pull this back. Now, when we're actually going to be doing these, you're going to be having like some specific dimensions that you're be creating them to. But for now, just to learn how to do it, we're just going to do it like this. Let's go back to 3D. There we go. It's looking a bit better. So next thing I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the dormer top view. You'll see that you can't see it from this elevation right now. So what you're going to want to do is actually go to dormer bottom to add that roof. So we're going to go to Architecture tab, Build Panel, and then our Roof tool. At this time, I'm going to create a gable on the front end. So I want 2-foot overhang here. And on the front, I want to turn off defined slope so I have a gable in the front. And I don't have a wall on the back, so it's not going to let me pick the wall. So I'm going to have to draw that final one just to close that geometry. And I'm going to use my corner tool to trim off these extraneous pieces. And hit my green check mark. And let's go to 3D, see what that looks like. All right, so it looks kind of weird. But remember, we drew it on dormer bottom, so now we have to grab that roof, change that base level to dormer top. That's going to move to the top. If I take a front view of this, let's notice that this dormer needs to sit within this roof space itself, so this is actually a little high. So with just kind of guessing at this, we need to change a few dimensions on this. For this roof, I'm going to actually make that slope smaller. I'm going to do a 512 slope, and I'm going to lower the height of this dormer. Let's make that 35 feet. Too small. 36. Oops. Cancel. There we go. Okay. So now I also have my walls the walls need to be within the building itself as well. So these I'm just going to just pull those back to connect those. Same with this one here. So the next thing I'm going to do is connect this roof to this roof. How we join roofs is we go to the Modify tab, Geometry panel, and then the Join Roof tool. We're going to click the back end of this roof line right here, and we're going to grab it to the roof that we want to join it to, and then it will just pull together like that. So let's do that again. In order to join the roofs, we want to use the Join Roof tool. Click on the back part of this roof that you want to join to the roof you want to join it to, and that'll just pull together like that. But remember, if the roof needs to sit within that, if this was higher than this roof level, you'd have this roof would look strange. But if you have everything situated correctly, it'll just kind of pull together like that, which is kind of nice. All right, next thing we want to do is we want to attach these walls to this little mini roof right here. So we can go ahead and just select all the walls. And I'm going to use attach top to base and connect them to this roof. All right, with that roof complete, the next thing I need to do is cut the hole in the roof for the dormer so we can see through that. As you can see at this view, we can't see through there. We'll just hide this real quick. It's just the roof. So the section that we're going to do is cut this dormer space open so it'll be open. So we're going to want to go to Architecture tab, the opening panel, and the dormer tool. So we're going to click on dormer tool, and we're going to click on the roof where we want the hole cut. So we want the hole cut in this larger roof right here. Then we want to pick the edges of the space that we want cut out. So right around the edges of this particular dormer, we're going to click on those boundary lines. Okay, let's see, for some reason it's not letting me click that one. I wonder if that's not low enough. Let me back out of that. So the reason it wouldn't let me cut that boundary line is because the wall actually has to fully intersect this roof right here. You can see that there's a gap, so it was not able to select that. So I need to correct this elevation a little bit more. So for my dormer bottom, I'm going to change that to it should be better if I go to a regular view here. I'll break that apart so it's a little bit easier to read. Make this 30 foot 6 inches. Go back to 3D. And that looks like that is definitely within that roof now. So now our dormer tool should work. So once again, we're going to go to our dormer tool, click on the roof where we want the hole cut from. We're going to pick the roof edge, the wall edges and the roof edges. It did let me pick that front wall this time. So I'll pick the wall edges and I'll pick that roof line edge. Notice when we do that, we have those magenta lines that show up. These are going to indicate how that that dormer hole is going to be cut. So at this time, I'm going to hit my green check mark. All right, for some reason that didn't work. That's great. Trim my corner tool. All right, so I just had to finish those edges on there, and we have an opening for our dormer. Let me go back to show you what I did. Before I went back and trimmed it, you can see that there was a gap in this part right here, and we had these extraneous bits right here. So I just used my corner tool to trim that. And once that was a closed set, when I hit my green check mark, it was able to cut that geometry from that roof. So now we can see inside of that. At this time, if you wanted to go to your dormer top view, we can take our windows and we can add a window to that front. Let's go ahead and do it like this. And we have our window. Obviously, that's not really centered, so you're going to want to correct that. We'll go ahead and do that again so you can see the way that's played out. Actually, let's go ahead. The time is running out, so let's go ahead and drop this. I'm going to send you a new invite, and then we'll do dormers again in that second video, and then we'll do standing seam metal roofs after. All right, so everybody drop, and then I'll send you a new invite.